Millennials are healing and holding our parents accountable.
So I wanted to just say this, and it's probably going to be a longer video than I normally make, but just here we go, right? So first and foremost, I'm all for holding your parents accountable as long as it's not in the public. I think there are a lot of people who need to go to therapy that are using social media and public platforms in order to like flambe their parents for things that they never really brought to their attention, regardless of age. And me as a new parent, I would hate for my child in the future to say, you know what, let me go to social media with my problems instead of going to my father and saying what it was. So, again, for us millennials who may or may not have traumas from their parents talking about the things that they did and didn't do as parents, I understand that. But going again on public platforms is absolutely bad behavior, not just for the parent, for the child as well. And I'm not going to go and be an escape artist for those parents because I'm going to talk about that in a second as well. As somebody who grew up in the do as I say, not as I do era, when parents would essentially do things that they wouldn't want you to do because you were supposed to know better, well, so were they. However, when it comes to us as millennials and Gen Zs, I'm a millennial, by the way. I'm not too fond of publicly putting out your traumas, hoping that you're going to, just net somebody who has similar traumas. That's not how it works. You should definitely go to therapy, have an accountability partner if you cannot afford therapy. More importantly, you need to go and have those conversations. When I say have those conversations, have them privately with that parent. If that parent's not here, you need to talk to someone that is going to be the vessel that you can actually pour into. And I really implore people to not go on social media. There's been a lot of stuff in the news. I'm not going to say the people's names, but one's a comedian, and her kid is going and saying all types of inflammatory things. And regardless if they're true or not, I just am someone who is someone's, child. And I'm also someone's parent. I would not want to be put in a position to say, you know what, I didn't do that, but I wouldn't expect my kid to do that as well. Does that make sense? Let me keep going. Shameless plug for my friend Shan. She has a podcast called She Gets It Podcast, and she also has Cozy Womb Podcast. And I think this is having a friend who is a parent and a woman, first and foremost, who will go and tell me how she parents. And it actually has coached me on better behavior as a male parent. But let's talk about some traumas without putting my entire business out there, because again, it's none of y'all business. But I feel like you should absolutely have a sit down with your parents. Again, if your parents are not here, and I know I said this a little bit early, but I wanted to get into the context. I wanted to get into the full details of this because it matters. You need to be able to sit down with somebody, not who is a random stranger or follower on a platform like this. You should talk to someone. You should go, be it a therapist, a friend, like a real life friend, somebody that you can tangibly reach out to and touch, or you should go to someone who is actually going to hear you out without forming an opinion. There are a lot of people on here, on these platforms, who just honestly are yelling into the void, hoping that somebody hears it. And that's not where you want to be. That's not where you want to go and place your traumas, because here's the thing: one, the internet is forever. Two, the people who are actually there listening to you, that's their entertainment. That's not for them to actually go and counsel you. And they are not licensed to do so. So don't go thinking that because you threw it out there and a couple people liked it, a couple people commented, meaning that they actually agree with it. They are just like, oh, they're more messed up than I am. And trust me, that happens more than you know. I guess what I'm attempting to say is yes, we should be holding our parents accountable, but regardless if you're 12 years old or 22 years old, you should be able to have conversations with your parents and, have that hard talk. If you can't have it because you're 12 years old, 12, 13, 14, if you're in your youth, I'm not saying you should hold on to it and just make it feel like it's an iron shield that you have to, put in front of you forever. That's not what I'm saying. What I am saying though is when you are able to speak up for yourself, regardless of your age, when you are able to speak out for yourself, you should have that conversation. And if you aren't able to have that conversation, you should definitely seek therapy. You should go and speak to someone who can actually hear you out and is not going to formulate an opinion based off of a one-sided conversation or argument, because again, some people say the things that they're saying, but the other person's not there. That's why I was saying that I implore people to actually talk to the the person that's causing those traumas. So there's that. But to answer her question, and I'll wrap this up really quickly, you have to go and have those conversations, be it hard or not, with that person. And if you can't, you need to go and seek some type of counsel, be it a friend, a peer, but more importantly, get that therapy. Go and talk to someone. When I say talk to someone, talk, say what you need to say, but also receive what they have to say as well. And that's not just your therapist, that's your parent as well. Because regardless of how you may feel about your parents, whatever they've done to you, they're still your parents. And I know that sounds like a really messed up way of saying it, but you would want to be able to complete that goal. You want to be able to complete saying, I said what I said, and you received it. So when you have that conversation, that's how you should end, is knowing whether or not the person that you had that trauma from, or that person that caused you that trauma, they received how you feel. They received what you said. If that didn't happen, you didn't accomplish your goal. And that is, it is so important. It is so important. I've gone through therapy myself. I'm not a therapist, but I definitely have been in my own personal silos of saying, you know what? Yeah, it was traumatic, and I had the luxury of having therapy, but I also had people that I could talk to, that even if they didn't understand the circumstance because they were never in that circumstance, they listened. And you want someone who is an active listener to hear you out, but also know to evaluate the situation, to not go and throw out their own personal ideas or traumas on you, thus affecting you at the end. If that didn't land, I'm sorry. Again, I am not, your counsel. I'm not an expert at this. I'm just somebody who's gone through it, and I would want somebody to say even just an ounce of what I just said. And if not, like, the next person, there's gonna be a lot of people who comment on this video. I'll leave it up to Stitch and Duet, but I'm really hoping that, we all, instead of going and trying to, throw the darts and hope that they stick to somebody, just throw them, but make sure that they're landing. Make sure they landed, and you're not just throwing them and they're hitting the ground. Make sure they stick. Peace, y'all.